Hello and welcome to Season 2 of Transport Fever. You find me on the shores of Lake Erie in, I assume I'm still in the United States. Possibly the state of Ohio? I'm not entirely sure. My geography is not completely there, but I think this would be the state of Ohio. Actually, no, that would be the state of Michigan? I might have just been on the border of the state of Michigan and Ohio. And as you can see, this is the map that I have generated. It is a map of the Great Lakes. So there you go, taking a quick look around it, and it stretches all the way from down here where we've got Washington and Philadelphia, all the way up through all the lakes, so Erie, Ontario, Huron, Michigan and Lake Superior, right the way up to Thunder Bay over in, actually I don't know what state that would be. That's possibly Canada now. Yeah, might be Canada up there now. It's very, very difficult to figure out where the actual border is. Actually no, because that's Canada. That's the Ontario province, and that's also Michigan. So, possibly, actually, that's probably the Ontario province over there as well. And then up here, we've got the Quebec province. And then down here, obviously, we've got, so you've got New York down here, or New York State. You've got, actually, I think that's all New York State, isn't it? It doesn't go down to Delaware, is it maybe? We've got Ohio, Indiana. We've got Michigan, and we've got Illinois, and a little bit of Wisconsin over here. So, there we go. Right, let's bring that map back, and let me show you everything on this map. And I'll show you basically all the cities, and we'll go through what the plan of this map is. So, as you can see up here, we've got Thunder Bay. We have got nothing around here, apart from some farms. I'll explain that in a bit. We've got Ottawa. We've got Sudbury. We've got Sault Ste. Marie. Saint Marie? I don't know. That town, I know there's a reason why I've put these towns in as well. We've got Green Bay, we've got Milwaukee, Madison, Rockford, Naperville and Chicago, Grand Rapids, Fort Wayne, Detroit and Toledo, Cleveland, Pittsburgh, Columbus, Cincinnati, Indianapolis, St. Louis, which is slightly higher up than it should be. Normally it'd probably be down in that corner just there, so I've just bought it slightly higher up. Washington and Philadelphia, I think that's everything. Oh, and Buffalo, Hamilton and Toronto and Ottawa. I think I mentioned Ottawa though. So there we go, there are the maps, there are the cities on this map. The map itself is quite bumpy, and that's how I wanted it. So as you can see, if we go to this mountain range here, over here, you'll see that it does actually get quite mountainous. There you go, it actually looks quite significantly like proper mountains, which is exactly what I like, because it's going to make it tough to actually start doing things and to actually get trains going through this and roads going through it and this, that and the other. So I'm very, very happy with that. As you can see, look at that. That is going to be some tough terrain to navigate, and I'm not going to just smash through it with a tunnel all the way through. I think that's not fair. We're going to have to do this in the best way possible. Okay, what else? I've dotted some farms around everywhere, and most of those farms are probably not going to be used. The only reason I dotted them around is because I want to see some of this farm patchwork, and I could not find another way to do this properly. There is a brush tool, but when I downloaded the brush tool, it turned all these tops of these mountains had like farms plastered all over it and all that kind of stuff, so I wasn't very happy about that. So I've just dotted some farms around, and there we go. So you'll see a bunch of them, especially up in the Quebec province and Ontario. So you see them there. I think this is all Quebec. So there's a bunch of farms there, and there's a bunch of farms down here, coming off down from Superior, along Michigan, all the way down into the more central states of America. What else is there? Right, yes, these coal mines and iron mines. You'll notice that it's very difficult to find them here. So look, there's one there, In fact, if I bring up the industry list, I've done this on purpose. Right, if we just arrange that by product, there we go. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 forests. We've got 7 forests, each one corresponding to an actual location of a national forest in the United States or Canada. So I've taken some of the national forests, and that is where they are. Now, thankfully, it actually has given me woods on almost all of them. So it actually looks like a forest, which is absolutely great. You'll notice we've only got 4 coal mines and 4 iron mines. This is also realistic. I had a look at mining locations in the United States and Canada. Sure, I had to play around a bit with iron because it was difficult to find it, but this is in the most realistic places I could find. And so we've actually got, coal available here around Pittsburgh. There's 2. I think there was quite a bit of coal. So there's 2 around Pittsburgh, and I think there's 1 north, somewhere around here. I think there's another one. Is it Thunder Bay? No. Actually, no, it's south, isn't it? It's all the way down at the bottom. There's another one somewhere around here. There it is. Okay, iron mines we have got up in Canada. So you'll see there's one just there near Thunder Bay. There should be a couple around this area. There's one, and I think possibly one lower down, maybe. There's one up there, and there should be one more. Where's the other one? It should be down in the United States, somewhere around these lakes. Oh no, actually it's right down here. There we go. All the way down here. So there's one iron mine down there as well. Quarries, we've only got 4 quarries as well. It's odd because I didn't actually intend for it to be 4 and 4 and 4, but we have got 4 quarries as well. We've got one up here near Green Bay. We've got a couple in Washington and Philadelphia, so there's one up there in the mountains. In fact, there's another one right there in the mountains as well, which you can see I have placed them to sort of fit quite nicely within the mountains. First, obviously I had them in the realistic location, or the most realistic location possible, and then I've moved them, adjusted them slightly so they don't cut into the mountain so much. For example, this one was cutting into the mountain quite significantly here, so I've just shifted it along a little bit. Oil, because we don't have oil in the northern states of the USA, or I couldn't find any, or in this area of Canada, I've put the 3 oil. I've put 1 oil here, and I've put 2 more oil wells down here near St. Louis. That's basically to emulate it coming in from the west of America and the southwest of America. So this is possibly the ones that come in from California and Texas and wherever else. And these ones, if there's anything that comes in from, for example, the west of Canada or stuff like that, Vancouver, Colorado, I suppose that sort of area, the Rocky Mountains, if there's anything around that area, that's where they're going to be coming in from. There's no other oil on this map. And then we've just got a bunch of farms because obviously I wanted it to have a nice amount of farmland. You will notice that there's nothing other than raw materials here. So I have got the industry mod applied, and as you can see, there are loads and loads of industries I can put in. We're going to be putting in goods factories, goods factories. What else have we got? Here we go, food processing plants, sawmills, steel mills, all that kind of stuff, construction materials plants. All this is going to be going in, chemical plants, in the various cities or around the city areas. That's where it's going to be going in. Reason being is because I'm going to look up and think about what city makes what. So for example, I know Detroit is big on cars, or used to be big on cars, and Toledo's nearby. This is interesting because I think Detroit's in Michigan and Toledo's in Ohio, I think. Don't quote me on that. I think it goes around like that or something. Not entirely sure. But what I'll be doing is perhaps putting a chemical plant here, or a goods plant, or a steel, maybe even a steel works here, because that's what Detroit makes. I know Chicago, lots of Italians, lots of good food comes from Chicago and stuff, so we might be putting a food processing plant here, so on and so forth. We might put oil refineries somewhere in maybe near Detroit or Cleveland. Pittsburgh's probably going to have a lot of mining stuff. I know from a lot of experience, that Pittsburgh has a lot of mining stuff that in its history, stuff like that. So we're going to have to work out what we're going to do with all of that, but that's going to come later. So like I said, in this entire episode, I'm going to be explaining what I have and have not got. We've also got, as was requested, if I go to train stations, I hope these work. Yeah. Okay, here we go. So we've got some train stations. I might have to change this mod over because I was planning on having very, very big train stations. But then again, I suppose... What's this? Normal. Outer. I don't know what that's doing. Can anyone tell me what that's doing? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2. I bet you have to do that, don't I? No, that's not changing anything. Anyway, we're going to have to work a few things out because we're going to have, you know, these kind of stations. And I do have the 40-track station mod enabled. It's just not working at present. Probably because I've enabled another mod, which is not helping. Wow, that's a long station. We're not going to ever need a station that long. So I'll change that between episodes and get that working before the second episode when we actually start building stuff. So we are going to have large stations. We're going to have a lot of things going on. What else is there to talk about? I'm using the increased vegetation mod, so you can see that there's a lot in the way of vegetation, which is exactly how I like it. The camera mod, that doesn't seem to be working properly for me, so until I get that fixed, we're not going to be using that camera much. What I am going to do though is I'm going to take a screenshot for this episode, perhaps somewhere here, because I think that's a fairly decent screenshot area. Yeah, something like that. I think I managed to get one that was working. Just one I managed to get working photo, which I put on my Twitter for a bit of a teaser. Right, okay, next few minutes. I'm still not going to start building anything. This episode, like I said, is not about building. This episode is about explaining the entire plan for this series. You may notice a few of these lines around. That's just because this is the first time I made my map. Also, thanks to Vasho on Patreon, Major Magna on Patreon as well, for supporting me and you know, allowing me to continue making videos like this. Thank you to Pixelator for attempting to make a map. I know it's very new to you, and for giving me the idea of moving from a much wider map of the United States. I was going to do all the way from New York to Chicago, but then down all the way to Norfolk and right the way down where we were going, Raleigh. What was it? I'm just trying to remember some of the town names. Yeah, Raleigh and that area. So it would have been down, well, much further down. I can't even show you. Actually, I can. Somewhere out there is where we were going to be going, and then somewhere out there is where we were going to be ending up going. But he goes, well, why not do the Great Lakes area? So I went, all right, well, let's shrink it all down and give us the Great Lakes area. So that's what we've got, the Great Lakes. Planned for this series, you may notice that none of these have roads connected to each other. So what we're going to be doing is we're going to, as you can see, we've got 3 million, but you may notice if I do this, no costs. No costs at all. This is not a series where we're going to be watching finances. This is a series where we are going to be making the most detailed, most scenic routes and the best routes we can, just to see how big we can make these cities and how much fun we can have with it. We'll be connecting up cities with roads. We'll be connecting up cities with rail. We're also going to be using, I mean, we've got the opportunities for ships here. For example, imagine out of that, if we wanted, this place is going to be a steel mill, by the way, because there's a huge steel mill or steel factory out here, and I think most of the northern territories or the southern territories of Canada and the northern United States get a lot of their steel, I think, from this area. That's just personally where I think they come from. So that's going to happen. We're probably going to have like a port here or something. In fact, this town could end up having 3 ports, one on, you know, one on Superior, one on Michigan, and one on Huron. And we'll bring it all the way down We might bring it right down to Milwaukee or Chicago and then ship it out even further. You know, we're going to have all that kind of stuff going on in this series. We're also going to have to try and make some routes between, for example, Philadelphia all the way to Chicago. We're going to do Ottawa all the way to Chicago. We're going to do Washington right up to Detroit, maybe up to Grand Rapids, Milwaukee. Chicago may end up being a hub, to be completely honest, because I think it's easy to get up this side from Chicago and get around this way. But then Detroit may end up as another hub as well, because we're going to be going, for example, Detroit, Toronto, Ottawa, but we're also going to be going Buffalo, maybe Buffalo to Philadelphia, Philadelphia down to Washington, Washington across to Pittsburgh, Columbus, Cincinnati, Indianapolis. St. Louis is probably going to have all the oil being shipped up and across the country, or across the two countries. So there's a lot that's going to be happening in this series. Anyway, I've blabbered on long enough. I'm going to end the first episode there with nothing being built. In the second episode, we're actually going to start, and we're going to decide where we want to start building our first rail, our first roads, and we're actually going to start getting things going, and we'll see the amount of mods that are going on and all that kind of stuff, and it's going to be great. So make sure you tune in for that. Thank you very much for watching. If you're on Twitch, hit the thumbs up, leave a comment. If you're on YouTube, like button, subscribe, comment. Comments are very, very important. At least then I'll know the direction you want me to take this series. Do support me on Patreon. Link to that is in the description boxes below. And of course, that support would be massively appreciated, and it will enable me to continue making videos like this. Thank you very much for watching. Next episode, the building begins. I'll see you guys then.